Hello, 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 everybody.
Guess what?
We're back.
Yes.
This is Rise and Shine, Stories of Triumph, coming to you live from our podcast studio here in Charlotte, Heige. And we're excited to be back in the studio, right?
So excited. It's been a journey.
Yeah,
Hasn't
it has.
been?
Even just today, girl. Keeping it real.
Yes.
Just today.
It's a journey.
But we are super excited. I just pulled out this surprise, but you see her on the screen, right?
Yes.
I have such regard for this woman. Matter of fact, tonight's the first night that both of us have met her in person, but we
Yes.
both had the pleasure of speaking to her
Amazing.
over the phone, and started out as a 2 minute, you know, you go in the grocery store for a gallon of milk and then you roll out with like 18
whole
bags.
cart.
Yes, that's talking on the phone with Miss
Yes.
Sharon.
It
Yes,
was amazing.
the dating coach. She is super passionate about what she does. And I'm just so intrigued to have you here. Sharon Smith
Thank you.
coined the dating
The
coach.
dating
Thank
coach.
you.
Yes.
I'm happy to be here.
I'm ready for some knowledge, and I did
Alright.
promise the folks that we were going to take some questions live. So you go ahead and share with us why you got coined that. You know, talk to us a little bit about.
Why did I become a certified dating coach?
Yes, let's talk about that while I get some people in the room to join us.
Okay, so really and truly, it became it's always been a passion of mine, first of all, because I can't speak on what I haven't gone through.
That's right.
And so oftentimes when we're listening to people, we want to know, did they really experience any of that?
That's right.
So when I was single, I had some ups and downs, roller coaster rides when it came to dating. But it was always my desire one day to be married. And once I began to realize some of the mistakes that I had made,
Yeah.
and really and truly just began to trust God in the process
Mm.
and to love myself,
That's it.
you know what?
That's huge right there. We can
God
stay
just
on that.
blessed me. He
Listen.
blessed me. He blessed me. He did. But before that happened, I went through a lot. And when you're going through stuff, you have to learn. Sometimes you have to really take that mirror and look at yourself.
That's so good.
And you have to say, what is it that I'm doing? Why do I continue to select the wrong person, but the
Right.
same type of person
That's right.
over and over and over and over again? And I went to so many singles conferences, read so many singles books, one
Girl.
without out.
Girl.
I'm telling you, I have in my closet, in our closet downstairs, there's this box full of books. I probably have read them all. I'm just telling you, every single book that you
Right.
can think of back then. Now, I don't know about the ones now, but
Yeah.
I read them all.
Mm.
And when I got married, I was just happy. And I wanted women to just experience it. Because when you find that one
Mm.
that loves you
Come
for
on, God.
you,
Yes.
Come on. Where
Yes.
Lord.
He's out there.
he is out there.
Yes, he is.
But when you find that one that loves you for you, everything about you,
Mm.
it is the greatest feeling. And I don't say that just because I'm married now, but I'm telling you, my husband was nothing but a blessing from God.
Wow.
Right.
And so when I found that after just, we going through the first years of marriage, and even to this day, I often say to my husband, and say to friends, like sometimes I still feel like I'm in that honeymoon stage.
That's a blessing.
And we're going on 13 years. Not saying that we
Wow.
don't have our issues and problems,
Yes, of course.
but it's like we talk it out, right? And then it just draws you closer. So it's like my passion is I want every woman who
Experience that.
Yeah.
desires
Yes.
to have a husband or to be married, to experience that. But in order for you to experience that, you got to learn how to date.
Right.
That's what I didn't know how to do.
Let's talk about.
I didn't know how
Yeah,
to date.
because we've had a conversation about, oh, well, you don't date, you court. And so tell us your feeling on that. I know it's probably not gospel, but this is according to Sharon, the dating coach. What's your take on that?
So when you say you don't date, you just court. So is that like that show Married at First Sight? Do you just like no? What I'm saying is, it's like they just match them up, right?
Right.
And they just off to get married.
Yeah. No.
I think before you even get to that exclusivity part, you have to date. How do you know that person has the same vision that you have. How do you know the qualities of that person if you don't date them?
Yeah.
The first date could be great, but date number 4 could be awful, or you begin to see qualities that this person has that you don't like. Not saying that that person has to be perfect, because we're not perfect.
That's right. None of us.
None of us are
Yeah.
perfect. So there's a difference there. But it's
Yes.
like, I think you have to date to get to know the person.
Right.
And after the first date or the first conversation or the third conversation or the fourth conversation, doesn't mean that's your husband.
Say that again for the people in the back.
In the back.
That's something we had to learn, honestly.
That was
Yes.
my problem.
Right.
Because I would go out on a date and I would like that person, and I'm like, oh, this is great. And you
Right.
go out on another date and another date, and you're having fun conversation, and you automatically think you're in a relationship.
Right.
And then when that person, you end up seeing them, now I'm speaking from experience,
Yes.
you're sitting in the nail salon and he walks in with another woman, and you're like, what the what?
I thought we was together.
That's my man. What's up with that?
And then when they say to you, well, we were just dating, right? Well, you know what? We were, but I thought we were more than just dating. I learned that later in life, as I got older. And my husband was the first one, but you know, going through just the ups and downs and the roller coaster, my husband was really the first one to ask me to be in an exclusive relationship. So all those other times I was assuming.
What about Billy Bob in the 7th grade? He didn't ask you to be your girlfriend?
No, you know, Billy Bob, what they said, do you like me? Check
Check
yes,
yes
or
or
no.
You know. But Sharon, you brought
Thanks
up
for joining us, guys.
you brought up, hello everyone. You brought up a really good point. So let's stay there just for a moment. So the assumptions.
The assumption.
Yes.
So I've, spoken to a lot of single ladies, as you stated, and I think we need to really talk about that, because what I've learned is that as women, we don't ask the right questions, and therefore, like you said, then we assume. So what does that look like? How can we come out of the wonder trap and really kind of gauge where we are? Are we dating? Are we moving towards being exclusive? What does that conversation look like?
Okay, so you don't ask that question definitely on the first date.
Exactly.
I wouldn't even ask that question on the second date.
Say that question again.
I wouldn't ask that on the second date. But I'm going to tell you, I think when you're dating with a purpose, oftentimes, even on that first date, you're going to hear certain things in that conversation that's going to strike a chord. So, because, we're listening, right? Now, it's not to say, oh my gosh, when he says he wants to get married. He didn't say he wanted to get married to you.
Right.
He just says his desire is to be married. So I used to take that and would run with it.
Right.
Oh, he want to be married. Oh, wow.
I'm the one.
You go back to your girlfriends and you're
Yes.
like, girl, he want to be married.
Start writing
Yes.
your name
There
and
you go.
changing the last
You're
name.
looking at the dresses and
Yes.
stuff, but he didn't say he wanted to be married. So when you talk about when or how, I think after you've probably dated someone or gone out on, let's say maybe 8, 9, 10 dates, right? You will know when it's time to have a conversation. And if he's mature enough, it's going to come up anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
And then oftentimes we oftentimes say men are not good communicators. Actually, they are great communicators. We just don't listen. And the reason why I say that is because men, when they first meet you, they will tell you what they're looking for, right? And sometimes we try to fix them or change them.
Oh,
Because we may like what he looks like, or the kind of car he's driving, or he's got a good job.
Right.
But he's already said that he's not looking for anything serious. And so what we do, we go full speed ahead, thinking that we're going to change his mind, and then we get so caught up in whatever's taking place in that situation. And then about 8 months, when he begins to pull away because he's not the one, then we get our feelings hurt, right? And so I think
you mean when he ghosts us?
When he ghosts. But oftentimes, we make them ghost us too.
Let's talk about that. Our behavior, the things that we say.
Yes. And it's not that I'm being hard on the ladies,
Right.
but I'm just saying that oftentimes men actually, they do communicate with us.
Yeah.
We just don't listen. period.
So I think that's a great point. I heard that this week. Like the Lord gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. Why? So we can listen more and talk less. So I'm taking that for me first. But I think that's a really, really good point, because one thing you said is dating with a purpose. So for instance, and I think we alluded to this prior to, the podcast before the podcast, y'all. But
The show before the show.
The show before the show. One thing I love that you said is that you have to know how to be discerning. And you have to know what your purpose is. So if your purpose is to get married, and on the first, second date, that person says, I'm not interested at all, then why are we on the 3rd or 4th or 5th?
Yes.
Is that correct?
That is so correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So at that point, you have to make that decision to say, you know what, but that's not really what I'm looking for. I think you will be great. I think you have great qualities for someone who's looking for the same thing. But just not me.
Do you think we prolong that sometimes?
Of course we do.
And why?
Because we want to try to change their mind. And oftentimes men say exactly what they're feeling. And when a man when he has, we as women, we are nurturers by nature. That's just what God created us that way, right? But sometimes we have to know when to back off. And we don't want to try to fix them. So when you're talking about dating with a purpose, and if your desire is to be married, that was always my desire. You've got to be whole as a person.
Let's talk about that.
And when you're whole as a person and he's whole as a person and you're both looking for the same thing, magic can happen. Right? It just does. It will happen if it's meant to be. But I think when you are trying to fix that person or change that person's mind, I did it for years.
Yeah.
You end up getting your feelings hurt.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned something, Venetia. You said, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, and we have to listen.
Yeah.
I think we've got to listen to each other better. And I think women, we really do need to listen to men more.
That's good.
And we're not trying to be their mothers. They're not looking for a mom.
Right.
They're looking for a partner. And I think if we listen to what they say that they're looking for and leave all the emotional stuff out of it, we might just be surprised.
That's so good. That's so good.
And when we do discern, when God does, I know for me, every relationship that failed, I knew it was going to fail. I knew it before actually moving forward because I felt it.
Right. And we override that feeling for so many different reasons.
Because we want it so bad, or we want him so bad.
Or the ideal of him.
That is the biggest.
You know what I mean?
Good.
The ideal of him, because when you talk about the ideal of him, it's because we want that relationship.
Yeah.
We're looking for that.
It's one of the things that's always, for me, I'm the one that's like, I can do this. I don't need nobody. I got this, right? We'll get to that. That's another one. Yeah, that's a whole nother chapter. But that girl can't understand the other girl. The other girl that decides she's going to stay with the one that's broken just because he is there. I don't get that. I don't understand.
Is it because it's the idea of wanting to be in a relationship even though it's not healthy, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I've been there too. So when you ask that question, why becoming a date coach? And for me, it's a passion. It's not about money or anything like that. I can speak to you. You don't have to pay me anything. I just want you to be happy.
Yeah.
And what happens is that when you're single and you're going through all of these roller coasters, you have to ask yourself, are you learning from each situation? Do you take the time to reflect on what you did wrong? Right. What you accepted. Did you settle? Did you have emotional baggage?
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
Were you too independent? Like, I really don't need a man. But you want a man.
Yes.
Right?
And again, going through the hurt that I did is what got me to that girl that I just described. So I was the other girl before I was her.
So you got hurt, and then you became this woman like, I don't need a man.
Exactly.
Because I got hurt.
Yes.
So that means you carrying baggage.
Yes, ma'am.
So
I
that means
got
you got
luggage.
That means you got to put it down.
I keep taking a few sweaters out every now and then to make it a little lighter, but I need to dump it all over. I just need to dump it, right?
You need to open that suitcase.
I'm sure I'm not the only woman that has a luggage.
You need to take it all out. But I'm going to tell you something. The easiest way to do that is to just spend some time. So when I relocated from Atlanta to Charlotte, it was just time for me
Yes.
to just enjoy me.
That's
Yes.
right.
I
All
went,
Yes.
you know, going to the movies by myself, going to dinner by myself, just enjoying me.
Right.
And when I left Atlanta, it was a big move. And I remember my girlfriend saying to me, "Why are you moving so fast?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"What I gotta wait on?"
Right.
I was just ready for change.
Right.
And at that
And
time,
not scared.
I got so involved with myself.
That's so
Mhm.
yeah.
You know what I'm
Started
saying?
dating you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And confidence is sexy.
Yes, it is.
And when you love yourself, because oftentimes I'm gonna tell you something, we get caught up in the looks. Not saying that you don't want to take care of yourself, you don't want to pamper yourself, you know, you want to make sure you take care of yourself. But I can tell you something. You have some of the most beautiful women that lack confidence,
That's
that are
true.
single today.
That's so
And
true.
then you have women that may not be, I think all women are beautiful, but I'm just saying, you know,
Yes.
they're different
the
levels,
world's
right?
standards.
What the world-
Yes, ma'am.
Exactly.
World
Yeah.
standards. That's
And
good.
you say,
That's good.
well, how is she married? But then if you look at how that woman carries herself
Yes.
and her confidence, and you walk in confidence,
Right.
you can walk in that room and you can demand attention when you walk in that
That's
room.
true.
And it's not that you're arrogant or anything like that. You bring the sunshine, right?
Right.
And so I think sometimes we gotta love on ourselves enough and be by ourselves enough so that when we meet a man, we don't have this attitude,
Right.
I don't need him. I don't need a man.
Yeah.
You know, and we have that attitude, and sometimes we wear it right here on our
Yeah,
shoulders,
and
we
it's a
push
shield.
people away.
That's
It's
so
a
true.
shield.
Yeah.
And it really is. I
Yes.
think, I know I used it as a shield,
Mm-hmm.
and then you get to a place where, I'm healed. And I'm good. I've walked through it. I know myself. I know what's going
Are you
on.
really
But
healed?
you still,
I
but
was
you still
just
single.
gonna-
You really
I
You
was
know, you're
just
still
gonna-
single.
but
You're
you're not
walking around
really
with this
healed.
thing on
That's
your
why.
forehead, trying to figure out why nobody's asking you out. It's because you're not all the way done with the process.
Well,
yet.
also too, if they do ask you out, you sabotage it
Yeah.
because you don't have that
That's
confidence,
good,
and you're
right?
not really
That's
healed,
excellent.
and so you end up sabotaging the situation, right?
So that is so important. Let's just stay there for a second, because just because you're by yourself and you're not dating doesn't mean you're working on yourself.
No, it sure does not.
So that's what makes the difference, is while I'm alone, so I've been single for a while, I had to go to counseling.
Yeah.
Because there was some deeper things that I needed to work through.
Which is great.
You have
Like
to
you said,
heal.
you
Yeah.
said, I had to look in the mirror and say, okay, who's the common denominator? Yes, it was Joe and
But that's
Bob
big,
or
though.
whoever, but who is the common denominator? And I think my relationship with God became like a mirror, because as I spent time with Him and getting to know myself, so we have the practical and the spiritual.
Yes.
So I spent quiet time with Him, and He would begin to say, you're still hurting.
You carrying some
You
stuff.
haven't
You're carrying
forgiven.
some stuff.
And then the practical side, well, yeah, go get a massage. Like you said, go get your nails done. But I think overall, in general, we don't do enough work on our inner
I
man,
agree.
ourselves.
I agree.
And when you've had relationships that you've really cared about somebody and you become emotionally attached, it takes a minute
Right.
to heal. And I can tell you, I experienced that.
Yeah.
Even as you get older, and let's say, it's just like a death of something, right?
Mhm.
And so you have to heal from it.
Right.
And sometimes this is the problem too. You can't keep the door open. So
Talk
in
about
order
the
for
door.
so in order for you to heal, because sometimes you have to know when it's over, it needs to be over.
Yes.
And sometimes we leave that door open because we're waiting for that text to come through. We're
Right.
waiting for that phone call. We continue to have those little conversations back and forth, and you're fooling yourself because you're really not healing. So when you
That's
decide
good.
that enough is enough,
Cut it off.
you got to close that door all the
Yes.
way
Yeah.
and go through that healing process. And that means cutting that person off.
Wow.
And oftentimes, women, we have a problem with that. Men don't. Men will close the door and they will move on
And keep it
Yeah.
moving.
and keep it moving fast, quick, and in a hurry.
Yeah.
But we keep holding on and we allow them to do that to us. So I think as women, we've got to love ourselves more to say, when
Yeah.
it's over, it's over.
Mhm.
That's so good. that goes back to knowing your worth.
Yeah, you have to know your worth.
And you said something earlier that was so good, Sharon. Talk about, the time factor. So you're waiting around for someone, who you think you're going to marry, or that there's a possibility, but you wasted 2, 3, 4 years.
Yeah.
Okay,
Or
so
more.
oftentimes so with me, I never stayed in a relationship longer than 2 years. And then it got to the point you realize, well, that was 2 years wasted. We weren't even really in a relationship, were we? And as you continue to get older, when you think that, I don't know if you journal.
Yes.
But when you journal, and I know when I was single, I journaled all the time. And when you take and you look back over what you've wrote down that has happened in the past and how much time you spent, you realize you wasted a whole lot of time on the wrong person and a lot of energy on the wrong person.
Right.
And I'm not saying, I do believe in what's meant to be will be, and what's meant to happen will happen. But I also do feel as if we waste our time on the wrong people, especially as you get older in life. That's in relationships, friendships, even with your family. Sometimes you just have to say, you know what, it's about me. And you have to not waste that energy on people that's not even deserving of your time.
That's really good.
Yeah, that
because
is.
as women, we think that's selfish. Like,
Yeah.
I used to think that was selfish because I'm such a
Nurturer by
nature, we
nature.
are,
Both of us.
and I love people, and you want to fix everything. But what I'm learning as I mature is that everyone's not my assignment.
Everyone's not your assignment, and every person or guy that you meet is not the one.
Right.
Yes.
And it's okay. And it's okay after the second date to say, that's not my type, or we're not on the same page. His vision is not like my vision, and move on. It's different in sabotaging a situation.
So let's talk about that a little bit. So, we'll know the difference between sabotage and just making a clear-cut decision.
So when I met my husband, I was just looking for something to be wrong with him. Because he was just too perfect. Because when you've had a lot of bad relationships,
you're waiting for the shoe to drop. You're waiting.
And also you go looking for it, right?
Yes.
That's
so
true.
I was just looking for something to be wrong with him. I'm like, okay, this man is just too perfect. And I'm sitting here like, okay, is he really into women? Does he
That's
have
a
any
real question.
Does he have any?
That's a real question.
That's what you want. But I'm just saying, for me, I'm just like, he's just too perfect. So I was looking for something, almost about to sabotage that situation, because I felt like I'm not deserving of that, right?
That's
even after all that time of being by yourself and journaling, you still had
because when you're praying for what you know that God is going to answer. When He does answer it, it will blow your mind.
Wow.
So what happens is we feel like we're not worthy of it, and we sabotage the whole relationship. Or what could have been a relationship. Over we have to go back to, you know what? Do I really love myself like I say I do? Do I really know that I'm worthy of this? You know what I'm saying? And oftentimes that's when reality sets in, and you realize, you know what? I got to go back to the drawing board.
Absolutely. I've been there.
Chris Webber joined us, and his one word kind of sums it up for what you said before. He said sever. Make sure you sever it.
You have to
and
sever
then he said, true that.
All right, Chris. You know that's coming from a man. I'm telling you.
Yes. He said, true that.
Because you know what? You won't meet that right person when you still have those situations that you haven't closed the door on.
Right.
And I like to say close the door. I mean, sever the ties, definitely. But close the door.
Right.
Because if you don't close that door, your heart is still over here. And the person that's trying to win your attention and win your heart, they don't even have an opportunity to do that. They don't even have a chance because you're still hoping this over here works.
That's so true.
Right?
Holding on.
And so we miss the good guys by hanging on to the bad ones. And I'm talking to the sisters. I mean, guys, no offense tonight, but my sisters are just a passion for me because there are so many single, amazing women.
I know several of them.
And I say to myself, I'm serious. I'm like, why? And I know that, you know, there are just some
And I
problems.
can burn too. Girl,
I'm
I'm
telling
the
you.
full package.
So I think sometimes we've got to look at what's in front of us.
Yeah.
And sometimes we're overlooking the nice guys. Like my husband was a super nice guy. He was totally opposite of what I was
Stay there
accustomed
for
to.
a second, because I
That
think
is
that's
so
how we
good.
miss it.
Yes.
Stay right
We
there.
miss it.
We
Yeah.
do. So talk about that. How did you embrace the difference and really come to the place where you laid your expectation down in order to even receive the blessing that God was trying to give you?
Yeah.
I just didn't make it complicated.
That's
I
the book,
had to-
by the way.
Yes.
I just didn't make it complicated, and I trusted the process. And I think sometimes we don't trust the process. We have so many people that we're listening to, and oftentimes when you're listening to so many people, you would get confused.
That's
I mean, you're going to church and you're hearing this, and you're like, God, are you talking to me? And then you go to this church and you talk to this person. Is that for me? And you're just all over the place, and then you just become confused.
Yeah.
And that confusion turns into emotional baggage. So I think you have to just trust the process. And if you're not, I think if you're not in a situation, especially when you're talking about, and I'm not sure on this show, but if you're not talking about being sexually involved with someone,
Well,
you don't
we
have
open that
you
door
don't
for
you
sure.
don't have that emotional attachment,
Yeah.
right? And so I think at that point, you can just trust it. I mean, we got to give somebody a chance, right? So if your
Yes,
desire is to be married, what are you waiting on? You want him to come to your door and knock on the door and say, God sent me. And if he did that, you're gonna think you're crazy.
Right.
Right?
Like,
Yes.
oh, Lord, the Lord wouldn't have sent him that way. What
I believe
which
I
way
actually
you want?
have heard that from my dear mommy. She's like, honey, he's not going to come and ring the doorbell.
Right.
No, and I think we're thinking we're gonna meet him in church.
Yeah.
I think we're thinking, do you know how many when it comes to dating and you're talking about in the church, there's some amazing people in the church. There's some amazing people that may not go to church as often as you do. But God never told us that our husbands were going to be in the church. I met my husband online. I trusted the process.
All right,
right?
now.
I trusted the process.
He was a believer, but
Exactly.
right, which is very imperative.
It was
If you're a
important to me.
believer,
It was important to me.
Right. If you're a believer, then that should be something else.
Right. It was important to me. But God did not tell me that he was going to be in the church.
Exactly.
So we
Right.
met online. I had, a guy friend that did online dating, and he would say, sis, you need to try this. And I was like, I ain't done no online dating. And then just one particular weekend, I didn't go home to Atlanta, and I said, let me just try this. And I did, and I set up a profile, and then I got a wink about maybe 2 weeks later from hubby.
Yeah.
And so,
Hubby's in the
waits.
studio. Hubby's in the studio too, y'all.
and
He's
so,
hiding out in the background.
so we'll be celebrating 13 years. So I think you gotta trust
That's awesome.
the
Congratulations.
process.
Yes.
Thank you so much, and not be afraid. You know what I'm saying? At some point in time, you're gonna be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Right?
That's so
just
good.
part of it.
So let's talk about that though. After I have so many girlfriends and we go back and forth, and they date way more than I do. But what we talk about a lot is the disappointment. So how do you bounce back? And I think you touch on that in your book. How do you bounce back when you have decided, okay, I'm gonna put my toe in the water. I'm gonna be a little vulnerable. I'm gonna start going on these dates, and week 1 doesn't work. Next
It's
week.
just with anything else. It's just like, let's say if you apply for a position and you get it, and you realize this just doesn't work for me, right? And then you begin to look for another position, right? Look at it the same way. I mean, it's okay to date. I think it's fun, actually, when you don't get. If you're dating and you understand exactly what it is you're doing, and by that meaning, every person that you go out on a date with is not necessarily going to turn into a relationship.
Right.
That's
That's not your husband. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I think it's okay to date, and if now for me, I didn't really date a whole lot of people at one time.
Exactly.
But some people do.
That
Guys
seems a
do
little
it.
complicated.
Guys do it. But you're not sleeping with them. But it's
Right.
okay. Like if you go out with John on Monday, and then on Friday, Charlie call and say, hey, what you doing?
Right.
And you go out on a date, it's okay.
That's right.
When the right person comes along and he's mature enough and he
Snip,
sees
snip,
those
snip.
qualities that you have
Yeah.
and he's ready to have that conversation to say he want to be exclusive, it's going to happen.
Right.
But it's not going to happen if you don't put yourself out there to just enjoy, just dating. And when you talk and you ask that question about courting, to me, John and I began to court when we became exclusive.
Okay.
Okay, so before we were just dating, and the reason why I say that is because he was just dating, I was just dating. When he was ready and he saw those qualities that I had and he was ready to take it to that next level, he told me. Now, the reason why I continued to date him was because we both had the same desires. Didn't know if it was going to be with him or he didn't know if it was going to be with me, but we
Right.
did share because we were dating with a purpose,
Yes.
right? But we did share what we were looking for.
Right.
Now, if John had told me that, I just want to date, I don't want to get married, right? I would have been like, gosh, you know what?
You're a great guy.
That's not going to be, but
Right.
that's not going
Yeah.
to work for me.
Right.
Have y'all seen the movie Baggage Claim?
Yes.
And you remember,
Wow,
you
that's-
remember the guy, he had all the money, he owned the hotel, and he told her, he was very upfront and direct with her. And he said to her, because she had that desire to be married. Right? And he said to her, his name was Wyndon, I think is what his name was.
Don't
on that movie.
I'm not that good.
And he said
Tanya.
he said, if your desire is to be married, he said that wasn't his. He said, but if you want to travel the world and you want to be adventurous, he said he was all for
I'm
that.
your guy.
Yes.
But he was upfront with
Yes.
her.
Yes.
And you know what she was doing throughout that movie? That's a good movie. I think single women need to watch. I love that movie.
Yeah.
But she was dating all the wrong men.
Yes.
And the right one was right in front of her.
The whole time.
The whole time. And he was the nice
Yeah.
guy.
He was the nice guy.
He was-
They even made him next door.
Yes.
He was right next door, and he was the shoulder she leaned on. When
Yes.
all the other dates were
Wow.
a hot mess.
Yes.
Falling in love with her slowly.
Yes.
The good girl, bad boy syndrome.
Yeah.
Good girl, bad
Yes.
boy.
Yes.
Exactly. And so that's
the
what-
millionaire wanted to take her, just travel the world with her.
Right. And so you know what? Oftentimes we as women will say, oh my gosh, I can change his mind. But he was
I
up
can
front.
change everything about it.
Right.
Yes.
You can't change a person's mind.
That's key.
If that's what his desire is. Men, oftentimes, when they know what they want, they know what they want. And when they have boundaries, they do not cross them. Like I tell you, I have a friend, and it's like, no kids. I don't care if, just no kids if they're young.
Right.
They have to be older or no kids, period. And that's just, I don't care who it is. I don't care how beautiful the person is. That is a red light for him.
Yeah.
And that's something he doesn't care about.
Boundaries.
That. It's like,
Yeah.
that's his boundary, I'm not crossing it. And oftentimes men are good about that.
They really are. We were having dinner a couple
But Chris
a
was
couple of-
funny. Chris said you got to kiss some toads before you find your prince.
No, that's
Chris,
true.
you're gonna kiss some toes. You
I
are.
didn't mean to
kissed him
interrupt
up.
you, but he's a piece of work. Chris, we love that you're here. Thank you.
We do. Continue to join us. We love it.
Go ahead, dinner. Yeah.
So we were having dinner and it was mixed, men and women. And one individual said, what are your non-negotiables? And so everybody kind of just paused, and he was telling us how animals was a non-negotiable for him.
Yeah, he's actually a relationship specialist. He has a book out
Absolutely.
like you.
Yes, and the light bulb went on, and I was like, wow, how many times we don't take the time to even sit and think about that. That probably would be a deal breaker for me. I'm just not an
Yes.
animal person. I mean, I love them, don't get me wrong. My friends, they watching. I love y'all dogs.
Yeah, I was about to say.
But yes,
Romeo?
I love you. However, living with Romeo every single day,
Non-negotiable.
it's a non-negotiable, but I never would have thought about that. And so that's why I love your book. And the book is called Dating Doesn't Have to Be Complicated. And if you know...
And the book's not complicated.
It is
It's
not
not complicated. I tried to make it very simple.
read.
Yeah.
But why I love it is because it provides us tools to be able to navigate
Yeah.
this dating world. It's amazing.
And dating should be fun.
It should be fun.
It should be fun.
It
I think that's what I learned. you know, with relationships, it's like I am just looking for something that this person isn't looking for, but I'm just going to enjoy it in the process. And I begin to do that. When I began to enjoy dating, it just began to work for me. But I didn't have the expectations. So I do tell now, when I say that, you always want to have expectations as far as what you're looking for, but I didn't have expectations as far as when I went on a date, thinking that first date was supposed to be this, or that second date is supposed to be that, or by the third date, oh my gosh, we should be exclusive. I didn't have expectations. I just enjoyed the process.
That's really good, because especially for somebody like me who is a recovering control person, right?
I was.
My name is Tanya Blackwood. Yeah, that's who I am. So, I have the date all planned out in my head already. I mean, we're meeting, because nobody's coming to your house the first time nowadays. But we're meeting, and then we're gonna chat, and then I literally have it played out. So for me, I need to just sit back and let things happen.
You need to just enjoy the process.
And actually, my greatest desire is for my date to run everything.
So that means you need to sit back and enjoy the process. Because oftentimes that's what we do. We plan it all out in our mind.
Yes, ma'am.
We're even planning the wedding too.
Yes.
Right? And when it doesn't happen that way, that's
we
where
become disappointed.
Yes.
Even in the midst of the date.
And
you
we
go
send
from
that vibe out.
100 to 2 instantly.
There's no date two
if
you send that vibe.
I'm over
Yeah.
When I was dating John, we were back and forth. We were traveling back and forth to see each other. I was just enjoying that. I used to look forward to it. I used to look forward to the weekend trips. I didn't know what was going to happen, but it was just, I enjoyed him. I enjoyed our phone conversations, and it just evolved into more.
So how long did you get married after you and John began to date? How long was it?
John asked me, it was total of 9 months.
Wow.
But he asked me at his retirement party. So I think we had been dating maybe about maybe was it even 3 or 4 months? I don't even know, because let me tell you, the funny part with John, I think when John really started seeing my qualities, I knew he was getting serious. Because one weekend when I went to go see him, I call it a tour. He took me on a tour. I met all his siblings in one day. We went from one sibling house to the other sibling house, to the other sibling house to the other. John is the youngest.
The family
He
tour.
has a huge family. So we went I met all the siblings.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, he's getting, and I didn't take him home first. He took me home first.
Okay.
Because you know what? I had learned. Because my mom used to say to me, you know what? If you bring another person, I'm going to have to get extra insurance on you. You just did. Because I'm serious. So at that time, you know what I did? I let the process just play itself out.
That's good. And you weren't like, when are you going to take me home?
No, I never asked that question.
Nope.
I never asked that question.
You were just going with the flow.
I went with the flow.
Girl.
And that's where we go wrong, because we
Oh,
want
that's so
to
good.
control the process. Because you know what? We're so independent. And I was now I'm going to tell you something. I have a very aggressive personality.
I can believe that.
But with my husband, and this is what I tell my married friends, or my friends that are about to get married, or my friends that are in serious relationships. You got to play the damsel in distress. Okay? That's what I call it, the damsel in distress.
Girl, our audience is recommending your book while we sit here.
Oh,
I got it on Amazon for $10.
Yes. So I play the damsel in distress, because when you're single,
Jackie.
you're always, I had to always pump my gas, take out the trash,
Girl.
you have to do
Talk
everything
about it.
right. You have to do
Yes,
everything. So when I met my husband and he started doing those things, when we got married, I'm gonna tell you something. Oh my gosh, I am like, oh honey, can you help me with this? Honey,
know
can
that's
you do
right.
that?
Did I tell you that earlier?
You know why I did that?
I
Because that first year of marriage, I had to allow him to be the head.
Yes, you had to renew your mind and let your husband take his position.
Well, he also told me, he was like, do you want to wear these pants?
Oh, that's why I go to white
Do you
school.
want to wear these
Come
pants?
on, John. Come on,
And
John.
so when we went through that, I was like, whoa. First of all, I was like,
Yes,
whoa.
ma'am.
Like, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
No, I don't want to wear these.
And so I had to relinquish all
Control.
of that. And it didn't mean I was no
Mhm.
longer independent or I couldn't do things for myself.
Right.
But when you're praying to God for a man, I'm not talking about somebody you got to take care of.
A grown man.
I'm talking
A
about a
yes, yes,
mature
yes,
man
yes.
Come
A
on.
who
grown man.
loves God.
Yes.
Even to this day, you very seldom will ever see me pump my gas.
Mhm.
I never get my car washed,
Right.
ever. I don't take care of anything outside of the home. He does all of that. Trash,
Right.
what? I don't do any of that.
So that,
And-
you know, so the stuff I'm having, maintenance stuff going on in a bit.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
And
Honey.
he prayed, because he prayed us in, y'all.
Yes.
Yes.
Seriously,
Always
prayed us in.
You know, when we have events, that's what he does. He prays.
He does.
Yeah, before we start an event,
Mhm.
we pray.
That is so powerful, and that only validates. I mean, it makes me feel even better about putting myself in the position to go to wife school. I shared that with
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
because walking through that and sitting with women like you, honestly, they're in the group as well,
Mhm.
that have been married 13, 25, 30 years. If it
Mhm.
wasn't for Benicia, I wouldn't even have joined the group.
Mhm.
And sitting in the midst of that, knowing what you just said, I'm on track to be prepared
Yes.
to not have that conversation
Mm.
because I think I will be more ready to relinquish
Mhm.
because I've gone through the process of this school,
Mhm.
you know, as opposed to diving right into the marriage and struggling with self a little more up front.
And then also, now that you are evolving as far as loving yourself and knowing that you're worthy,
Yes, ma'am.
praying and trusting God.
Yes,
Make sure you
ma'am.
can now every year I wrote my letter to God. And, you know, like the New Year's Eve service.
Mhm.
Yes.
I took my letter to the altar every
Mhm.
single year.
All right,
Okay.
y'all.
I always prayed for my husband. But I can tell you, you gotta trust God too, because He
Yes.
will bless you with more than what you ask for.
Right, and are you ready to receive it?
Yes.
That's just it. And when you're not ready
Mm.
to receive it,
Lord.
you don't want to receive it, because I am just one. I'm gonna tell you, divorce. I mean, with all this reality TV, if you know me, you know I'm not a reality TV person. I'm
Neither
sorry.
am I.
I really think that they are tearing apart the image of what good relationships and
I
marriage
Mhm.
looks like,
100%.
right?
Yes.
So we don't even, that spirit,
Yeah.
I had to stop that spirit from coming in our
Yeah,
home,
I
because
don't
I didn't
entertain
want
that.
that to.
That's
so
so
you
good.
gotta
Yeah,
be
that's
careful
so
with what
good.
you
Yes.
listen to, and you
Come
have to
on.
be careful with what you watch.
That's right.
And so
That
that
shapes
whole
your
reality,
mind.
yes,
Mhm.
that whole reality TV stuff, I'm sorry, I don't even want to see that trash.
Mhm.
But I'm going to tell you, I think if we as women trust God in the process,
Mhm.
while you're single, enjoy it.
Yes.
And I'm going to tell you, I did enjoy being single.
Mhm.
That's right.
I have the best girlfriends even to this day.
Mhm.
And we were there for each other. And it's so funny because my husband, he could show you on my phone. My girlfriend texted today, do y'all remember the Lonely Hearts Club? 'Cause that's what we had on Valentine's Day. It was the Lonely Hearts Club. And we went out to dinner,
Mhm.
but we just had a girlfriend's night in.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And
now
we
they
enjoyed
call it
that.
Shout out to all my
It's Galentine's.
girlfriends.
Yes.
And I'm gonna tell you, I enjoyed those moments because I didn't go through anything by myself, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And at that time,
Yeah, there's a
sometimes
village.
let's just be
Yes.
honest. Sometimes you do be lonely,
Yes.
and it's no point in pretending like, oh, well, you know
No.
what? I don't
Yeah.
need this, and I know
No.
for me, I was
Right.
just real.
Yeah.
So we were there for each other.
Mhm.
Well, I want to transition us real quick because I know one of the questions, I wanted to take some questions
Yeah.
tonight,
Mhm.
and one of the questions that came through is from a widow.
Mm-hmm.
And she wanted to, let me make sure I get it right. First of all, she loved the fact that you said, you know, have no expectations. But you're going back into waters. It's been a long time. Do you have any words of wisdom for somebody who's really, they're woke now to, okay, their teenager is saying, I want you to see somebody. How do they delve back in?
So I'm gonna tell you, I don't speak on things that I haven't experienced.
Okay.
Being a widow, number one, she needs a support system.
Yes.
So when she does begin to date,
Right.
that she doesn't get all caught up in emotions. Because
Mhm.
sometimes I think widows can be a little bit more vulnerable because they've had that companionship.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
And to
Sharon,
go
that's
from
good.
having companionship to realizing and waking up, you know what?
Yeah.
He's no longer here. I personally, I can't imagine that without having my husband.
Right.
But what I can say is I can't tell her not to have any expectations because she's been there. But what she can look for is not what her spouse had.
That's so good, right?
But what she can, but she knows what she doesn't want.
Okay.
And I think if she understands that,
Yes,
it will make the dating process easier.
that's
So
powerful.
boundaries,
She has to know what her boundaries
expectations,
but be
but
realistic
no
about it.
comparison.
Exactly. You cannot compare.
Exactly.
That's really
because
good.
because that next person will be equally as good but may not be exactly what she had before.
Right.
I
That's
think
a
that's good.
tough situation,
Yeah.
and prayers to you, and I do wish that you find that person that God has for you. I've just not experienced that.
Right. Yeah.
And so I don't know the feeling of having to get back out there.
Praise
It's
God
different.
for that.
It's different when you've had your
Yeah.
heart broken and you know that that relationship wasn't for you, but to be married,
Yes.
I am just not the one that I can say, oh yeah, girl, just jump back out there.
Right.
Because I
Right.
think that would be,
Yeah.
you know, it probably would be a little bit more difficult. And
Yeah.
I would actually advise her to definitely be in counseling too.
Yeah.
And if she has a really good girlfriend, to make sure she's in constant communication with that girlfriend or that group of friends that she does have. True friends on top of that.
I think that was
That was a
excellent
great answer.
because
Yeah.
although different, some similarities because I've been married and divorced. So even
And
though
it's
death
like
is
losing.
finite,
Yeah.
it's still the thought of getting back, not comparing,
Right.
being able to be mature and discerning enough to say, okay, this is what I don't want, but still being open to learn what I do want. Because
Right.
sometimes you don't even know exactly what that is.
Yeah.
And so being cautious and careful, like you said, and having, this is for anyone, a coachable and a teachable spirit.
That is big.
Yeah, it is.
Essential.
Yeah, it is.
And the reason why that is so big is because, first of all, you got to know who you're listening to. And if you have a great girlfriend circle and you trust your girlfriends,
Right.
trust is key, period. Friendships, relationships, trust is everything.
Everything.
And if you can trust those girlfriends through the good times, the bad times, you want to be able to listen to them when they're trying to really help you out.
Yeah.
Right.
And that was the one thing that even at my event that I had last year, my girlfriend, she let me share her story. And I had to remind her, you know, when she went through her situation, going through the divorce, and it was like, but I didn't see that. I'm like, yes, you did.
Yes.
And
That's a
because
real friend too.
right,
Sharon.
because
Yeah.
I'm like, we talked about it.
Yeah.
You know? I'm
You
like,
saw the red
you
flag.
did see
You just
it.
looked the other
You
way.
just
You just
overrode
looked
it.
the other way,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes we don't want to hear the truth. The truth can be hard to digest.
Right.
But
That's so
if that
true.
person truly loves you,
Yeah.
you'll be able to digest it because you'll know that they have your best interest at heart.
Exactly.
That's just how I look at it.
That is so important. That's so important. I'm going to ask you guys if you have any questions for Sharon, feel free to send them through the feed, either on Then I Rise or on my page. And what I want to talk to you about next really is, you know, the taboo of the online dating experience. We kind of like went through that, but talk a little bit about that, and especially when it comes to, I mean, I've heard people speak poorly of it in both environments, you know, having a spiritual background, I would say. I don't want to say church or religious, but and then folks that aren't, you know, they're not walking in faith. And so talk to me from a Christian dating perspective, how, you know, about online dating.
So to me, it's a tool, right? It's not necessarily going to work for everybody.
Okay.
Now, when I met my husband
That's good.
online over, it'll be 14 years ago, we have to understand that social media and online dating it was different then. It wasn't, everybody didn't have the smartphones.
Right.
When, I mean, they didn't even have smartphones then. I was
They did not.
No, ma'am.
So, you know, you couldn't just
Yeah, the-
swipe.
Yes.
The beeper.
Swipe left. I was
You couldn't just
swiping
swipe.
the wrong way.
Exactly.
Yes.
And then everybody didn't have access to internet.
Right.
And then, but I'm gonna tell you what happened when all the free sites came about. To me, it just kind of took online dating to a different level. To me, it was a lower level because now everybody can just be on there and just play on it, right? But it's a tool, and I think that to me, online dating is no different than meeting someone in a grocery store. And the reason why I say that is because you got to get to know the person, period. Yeah. And I think anytime you're dating, I think we have to be open. You don't have to tell everybody that you're dating somebody or you met somebody. That's right. That's where we go wrong. Don't tell everybody.
And now we have the extra added social media.
Yes, don't go posting the picture of your date or I met somebody. So
it's crazy.
But I think online dating is just what it is. It's a tool, right? Yeah. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to find your husband or your wife online.
Yeah.
But it's nothing wrong with just trying that tool out. You know, because it's the same way when you're applying for a job, right? You go on LinkedIn,
very much
right?
so.
You upload your resume. You go on Indeed. It's just a tool.
Yeah. And they either they wink or they don't, and you move on, right?
Exactly.
God bless the wink.
But it's no different. but it's no different. I think, you know, online dating is just like you don't know the person.
Yeah.
The difference between online dating or if you go into a matchmaker, it's just that you're going to pay a whole lot of money for the matchmaker, and they're supposed to be able to find the perfect match. I'm not really sure how well that works either because I'm not a matchmaker. Not when it comes to actually going paper. Now, do I like to set people up? Oh yeah. but it's just different, and I just looked at it as a tool. It was something that I tried, and I trusted the process.
Okay.
And I think when it comes to dating, being a Christian, I was born and raised in the church. I just always trusted God. Right. And I looked at every experience, whether it worked out or if it didn't, good or bad. It was something for me to learn from. And I think sometimes you just got to take and you got to learn from those experiences. Right. And one thing about God, and He's so good, when He wants you to learn something, He's going to take you around that mountain. Again. And you're going to keep going around that mountain until you learn, right?
Yes.
And so sometimes you just got to look at self. And that's what I did, a lot of self-examination within myself. I'm like, okay, what is it about me? And I think once you learn that, it makes it easier. But it's just a tool. I don't think we need to get so caught up into religion. Oh, wait, that means you don't trust God, and that means you don't. No. Well, did the Bible tell me that I couldn't do online dating?
Exactly. And everybody's love story is going to be
totally different. Love story is different, and don't try to paint your love story to be like someone else's. That's right. Don't write that love story. Oh, I want to be like them. I want to be like this couple or that couple, right? You know, it could be where you go out and you meet somebody and, you know, you go to an event and it just works out for you. It could be where you're introduced to somebody and it's like, oh my gosh, you know, it just works. Yeah. It's just different. Right. But I think we also have to trust the process and not be afraid to date. That's good. That's just it.
I think that was my problem because of the disappointment or listening to other people's, you know, scenarios and situations. You're like, I don't have time for that. I'm not willing to be vulnerable enough to even allow someone in. But I remember someone told me, you're not allowing anyone in, but you're also not allowing yourself to branch out
and experience it.
So the good isn't coming in nor going out. Like, you know, you have to be vulnerable.
But then let me ask this question, because oftentimes when we say we trust God, do we really trust God?
That's a great question.
And the reason why I say that is because I hear this often. I don't want to be vulnerable. I don't want to get hurt. But we don't know what's going to happen. Right, you don't even know if that's going to be the case. You're not taking a chance at all.
That's so true.
Yeah. So when we are trusting God, God didn't say, Tanya, your husband is going to be at church next Sunday. He didn't say, Benicia, your husband's going to be in the grocery store on the 5th aisle, you know, next to the bread section. So I need you to go. Let's go. Food line. But it's nothing wrong with going out. It's nothing wrong with going to social events. It's nothing wrong with like putting yourself out there. And it's also nothing wrong with just being able to walk across the room and say, hello. It's okay. What's wrong with that? Yes, just because you go and say
doesn't mean you're approaching.
Doesn't mean that you're chasing. But what's wrong with saying Hold up.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true.
Can we not just say that sometimes?
Yeah,
That's true.
and it's not seen as, oh my goodness,
She's
you're
forward,
crass and
right.
you're whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I have I have three great questions.
Mhm.
And since Chris has been riding with us, I wanna deal with his first. One was, how do you flirt without being creepy?
Oh, that's easy. Oh my gosh. You know what?
Thank
You can flirt without being creepy.
Yes.
So sometimes, let's say for instance, if you're in a, hey Chris, if you're at our social event, right? And you see this attractive woman across the room, and you just may go over and say, you know what, would you like a drink? You know, now ladies, be careful with that.
Yeah.
If you say yes, make sure you follow him back to get your drink, right?
Yes.
But
Very good.
But it's
Sign
something
of the
just
times.
it's just something so simple.
Right.
When you talk about flirting, it doesn't have to mean when a man walks up to you and says, "You just look sexy in that skirt."
Mm-hmm.
You
Can
know
I
what I'm
have your
saying?
number?
Right.
Right away,
Yeah.
like out of nowhere.
Right. So just a compliment, you know,
Mhm.
or he could say, "You know what? I've been watching you, and you have a beautiful smile."
Yes.
You know.
Mhm.
Compliments work, Chris. They do.
Compliments
They do.
actually compliments work.
They do.
They do.
I'm not talking about like, oh, honey, you know what? Your body is banging.
Right.
Okay,
That's
I
the
know
term.
what he's
That's
No,
the term.
grown up compliments.
I know
Grown
what
up.
That's the
he-
term.
Exactly.
Grown
Right.
Grown up compliment. And so, to me, just keep it simple.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great.
That's it. Chris, just keep it simple. It doesn't have to be complicated.
So Sharon, let's just not assume that
Mhm.
women respond the way that they should when someone says that.
So they plan hard to get.
Right. So how?
See, I don't have
One-
time for that.
One
Right.
question I wanted to ask you was the quality. So you keep talking about, once my husband seen my qualities. So what I learned that I didn't know is that like men really love women that smile a lot, and I just did not understand that until people tell me that at work. Like every time I see you, you just smile. I'm like, oh, okay. So tell us about qualities and how you should respond to that, because before I knew all that I know now, I would just be like, oh, thank you, and just like keep it moving. But you have to know how to kind of keep the conversation brewing.
You can say, thank you. How often do you see me smiling? You know, I can flirt now.
Right.
Right, honey? I can flirt.
He's here to
How
attack.
often-
Like,
Like, how often do you see me smiling?
Right.
And you just start the conversation. It's something so simple,
I
Right.
like it.
right?
Mhm.
We don't have to make it seem like, thank you.
Right. Because
To
then you
me,
seem
that's like-
And
uninterested.
he's
Right.
crushed too.
Yeah.
Because, he.
We don't have to play so hard to get
Yeah.
when we know we want to be caught.
That's right.
We want men to chase us, but come on, like
Yes.
we don't need for you to be jumping all over this and going all through the tunnels and stuff.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Just keep it simple.
That's right.
Right?
Yes.
I like
Are we
it.
really wanting to play games? I'm 46.
Yeah, I don't
Right?
want
So
to.
I don't have time.
I couldn't even imagine being single right now because I just don't play the games.
Exactly.
I'm not getting ready to play the games.
No.
Period.
Mm-mm.
So
No,
I just think keep it simple.
I like that.
I
Keep it
think-
simple, guys.
Keep it simple. And Jackie had a question too. Thanks for joining us, Jackie. I hope you're still on the line, but I wanted to bring up your question about, she mentioned divorce, which Venetia spoke to earlier. I am divorced and dealing with being single again now for 4 months.
Oh, wow.
It's still raw, right?
That's true.
So mostly now I'm trying to focus on relationship with God and myself,
That's right.
having the confidence in myself. What are your thoughts about her comment?
First of all, she's newly divorced for 4 months.
Yeah.
She needs to be concentrating on herself
Yeah,
and also healing.
That's right.
Because
Yeah.
even though if the marriage did not work out and it was a bad marriage, evidently it had to be, it did not work out, there's still a healing to go through, right,
Right.
Venetia?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
so think about a relationship that breaks up and how we have to heal from that. I'm pretty sure divorce is probably 100 times worse, right?
It is one of the hardest things, I would say, that, I've experienced. I'm sure other people, a lot of times they equate it to being worse than death,
I've heard that.
because you have to still interact. A lot of times you have children or whatever the case may be. You have to
it's
interact.
continuous.
Yes, with that individual. So I took a lot of time, and everybody's time frame is going to be different, but I took a lot of time because I wanted to work on myself. I wanted to ask myself those hard questions did I see the red flags?
Mm-hmm.
And if I overlooked them, why did I overlook them? Am I healthy? Do I feel worthy? I had daddy issues, just different things that came out. So I would definitely agree that this is a time to grow closer in your relationship with Christ, to really work on your worth, knowing who you are, and even finding your own purpose.
Yeah.
Right?
Your own purpose.
Your own
It's
purpose.
and
it's
just
time to
self-love.
fall. I was just gonna say it's time to
Yes.
fall back in love with
With
you
right?
and everything that you bring to the table.
Exactly. Yes.
To recognize that you'll always hear on a rise and shine, because it's not just us as coaches. We bring coaches, and
Yeah.
people have said to me before, "Well, you're a coach. Why do you have coaches on your show? You're a coach." I'm not in your lane.
Right.
You're an expert in what you do.
Mm-hmm.
But even as a life coach, as both Benicia and I are, she has a lane that she's an expert in, and so do I.
Right.
Our biggest thing is that we want you to rise.
Absolutely.
We want you to rise.
Yeah.
So for us, it's important to bring the resources to you that you need so you can make that journey.
Absolutely.
And walking through things and healing is the first step. So, Jackie, kudos to you for even asking that question. Placida's comment to that is, healing is necessary. Divorce is a death, grief and loss. The grieving process is a crucial thing that can't be avoided.
And after 4 months, I can honestly say right now, I guess she is focused on going through the healing.
Right.
Yeah.
And right
good for her.
now, I would suggest, Jackie, don't even worry about a relationship at this point.
Yes. And also something you said that really helped me. It was a couple of things that really helped me. One, of course, focusing my relationship on God, but making sure that you are around like-minded individuals.
That is so important.
And
Very important.
being honest with where you are. So let's just put it on the table.
Yeah.
So it's 4 months. You've been sexually active with your husband. Your body is still
into marriage mode.
Absolutely.
Of
It's going
course
to
it
crave
is.
those things. And so I really had to focus my relationship on God, but I also had to be honest, and how do I work through those things and help being healthy.
Yes.
So, I read books, I listened to sermons, even on divorce. I went to Divorce Care, which was an actual program at my church that helped you process the different stages of divorce. For me, I stopped watching love movies and stories and people in bed and things of that nature, because it wakes that area up. And then I made a decision just moving forward for me that I wanted to take sex out of the equation so that I could make more mature and sound decisions, because I recognized for me that it clouded who the person was, or even how I saw them. And so, I, like you said, just kudos for even asking that, but without a village, I would not have been able to process that, because I needed to talk about that. And even as a single person, still I have those days, hello, today is one of them days.
Too many biceps, Jesus. Too many biceps and triceps around. I need prayer.
And that's just real.
But the good thing about it
And good
is
for
that
you for
you
that.
know that.
Absolutely.
Yes, and
know
she
that.
talks about it, which a lot of people don't.
They don't.
And you address sex in your book too.
Because it's real.
It
Yes.
is real.
And everybody deals with it differently.
That's right.
And I think to make it seem as if you're not going to encounter that when you're dating is being unrealistic.
Yeah.
That's right.
And so oftentimes, because we
You're
are
welcome,
Christians,
Jackie.
we think that we're not supposed to talk about that.
Yeah.
When you don't talk about it, it can happen.
Come on.
And I can say, and I'm not an advocate of like, girl, go ahead on, just do it. I'm not an advocate of that, but I am an advocate of being real.
Yeah.
And I just think when you're going through a time like that, you do need to have people that you can actually talk to.
Like talk like for real.
That's not going to judge you.
That's
That's
right.
going to help you through that
That's
situation,
so true.
right?
Yes.
And I think that is where because I'm going to tell you, it's different when you're single and you're not dating anyone. You can you can walk around here all day long.
No, that's true.
You know what? I ain't having no sex, not before marriage, da. But when you begin to date,
That's right.
Yes.
and you find that person that you like,
Come on.
That's when you gotta
And
really be real.
yeah, those
Let me
feelings
tell you,
start.
You gotta
the
understand.
chemistry
The
starts.
chemistry starts, and then it's like, oh my gosh, how do I handle this?
Yes.
Because it's easy to say what you won't do when you're not in the situation.
Absolutely, and that's such a good point. And Tanya and I laugh. All my girlfriends laugh because I remember I was dating this guy, and we had really good boundaries, you know. So I'm like, I'm not coming over late. You're not coming over late. It just happened this one night. It was a little late. I think it was like, maybe like 10-ish. My sister was in town. I was like, let me go see him. I'm not gonna be able to see him. And I remember us, just on the couch watching TV. And he was like, you good? I was like, yeah, I'm good. You good? He was like, yeah. I said, let me go. The fact that we had to ask each other
if you were good.
Are we good? So you're absolutely right, especially when you haven't encountered that in a long time. Like I remember saying, I forgot how cologne smelled, or this muscle right here. So you have to be realistic. You have to set boundaries, and like you said, if you fall, because none of us are perfect. If you fall, you know that you can get back up. God still loves you.
Grace and mercy.
Grace and mercy.
Yes.
And talk to your friends. My friends and I, we try to give each other codes and
Yeah.
hold each other accountable. Have accountability partners, so we try to make sure that we have those things in place.
You have
that's
to.
where our heart out
Yeah,
is.
you
You
can't
want
walk
to do the right
alone.
thing.
It's too hard.
cannot.
Placid is cracking me up over here because she said the devil is a lie.
Right.
You better talk about it and bring it into the light.
That's
God
right.
will counsel.
That
No
is
Netflix.
it. It's like no
Netflix and chill.
Well, I think what it is that we want to make it seem like I can handle that.
And
Yes.
you
And
gotta be
then we
real.
want to be real because I say this over and over and over, and this is so real. When you're not in that situation, it's easy to say
That's
From the
true.
outside.
Don't do
That's
that.
so true.
It's easy to walk around and say I'm celibate. I'm not having sex. I'm celibate. Well, yeah, you're right. You just by
Nothing's been
yourself.
presented to you.
And keep it real, some people that by themselves not really by themselves.
That's what you say.
Oh,
You
that's
know
another
where you
show.
go.
That's another
No,
show.
I
We've
know where you
we've
go.
had
Oh,
conversations
okay.
about that. That's another show.
I know exactly where you're going.
I think we might find an author or two. You want to come back now?
But we have to talk about this on a Christian platform.
Yes.
Because the world, everything goes, they talk about everything, and when it comes to the kingdom, we're like hush, hush, quiet, quiet.
Right.
People
No
are
sex.
struggling.
Or
No
going straight to hell.
masturbation.
Right.
No,
Going
none of
straight
that.
to
Yeah,
hell when
you
it
don't talk
happens,
about
right?
that.
Talk about it.
And I think that is where women, sometimes we can't push men away with that. We have to be very careful. And not to just, say, okay, I'm not having sex with you. This is over with. He might be in the same place where you are.
Right.
Just
Yeah.
have the conversation.
Yeah.
If he respects you, it's okay. But it doesn't mean that you just shut everything down. You don't shut everything down. We're adults here.
Right.
And if we're adults here, we can have adult conversation.
That's right.
Right? And then you set the boundaries, okay? Like you said, I won't go over there at night. I won't do this. Whatever boundaries you set up.
Right.
With me, of course, it was a little bit different.
Right.
I don't know. It was just different.
Right.
Every relationship is different. Every situation is different. That's why I have to be careful because I don't want to advocate anything.
Right. Exactly.
But I'm
Yes.
just saying, like, if you fall,
right.
don't beat yourself up.
Yeah.
Yes.
God, you know what?
He's
I am
not beating
so
you
sorry.
up.
You know what, God? I am so sorry. I am. Like I tell you, I'm just real.
Right.
Yes.
With my
No, I
husband and
appreciate that.
it happened.
Right.
He's a man, and he's a man who loves God.
Right.
But it happened. When we stopped is when his pastor said, "It stops right here,"
That's
because
right.
we
That's
both
good.
were on. We knew what we wanted. John had already asked me to marry him, and he said, "If you want God to bless this, it stops here." Now, when God comes at you just like that,
Right.
Yes.
it's you better stop.
Yeah.
And you
Okay.
still had to make the choice.
We
You
had
and
to
John,
make the
exactly.
choice.
You and John still had to make the choice
Yes.
at that point.
Yes.
Do we?
Exactly.
Do we want this marriage to be blessed?
Exactly.
Do we want God as the foundation? So
Yes.
I think that's a great story that people need to hear. You can fall short, but you can always make a decision
Yes.
to get back up. And 13 years later, here you
Here
are.
you are
Yes.
with a beautiful
together.
marriage and a beautiful
And I'm not
child.
saying, hey, ladies, just go out there and do
Right,
it. But
because
what
your
I'm
story
saying,
might not
your
end
story
like
might not
that.
end that way.
Exactly.
But I am saying, don't just shut it down because I'm scared. Oh my gosh, I can't. And
he's
you know
not
what?
the man for
And
me.
you know
just
what?
'cause-
You're gonna be
yeah.
single with cats and everything.
Oh, Lord, I just asked a lady about
70
that
years
yesterday at
old,
work.
and you're gonna be like, you're gonna be
She had
thinking
3
about all
cats and a
those
dog.
missed opportunities. Like, oh my gosh, why did I do that? Why
Right.
didn't I do that?
Right.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Just don't shut it
Yeah.
down. Have a
Right.
conversation.
Right, exactly, because when I think about that, and even some individuals that I've talked to, sometimes men are influenced by you,
They are
Mm.
surely
but
influenced. by
you also can't be fickle.
No.
So
I have a friend.
come to the
I
table.
haven't
with
heard
what-
that word. I haven't heard a woman, but I
Mhm.
have a friend, and John knows this friend. He says, because I'm like, why are you still single?
Mhm.
He said, because I'm gonna be honest,
Mhm.
Yeah.
black women are fickle.
Mm.
I said, well, what? Why do you say?
Wow.
He said, because he's giving me the situations,
Mhm.
and I can only but kind of agree.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
sad, but you have to like.
Because
oh, I
we
guess you
are
have a
a
point.
little
Mhm.
fickle,
Right.
Mhm.
and I think we gotta be really careful.
Mhm.
Because it comes across to men as being emotionally unstable.
Yeah, ooh, that's
You
good.
know?
That's
And
good.
so when you're emotionally unstable,
Mhm.
it can shut down whatever potential that relationship
true.
could have had.
That's so
And
true.
with John, I was just me. I trusted the process.
Mhm.
We took each day
Mhm.
and, we just enjoyed it.
Right.
And I wasn't fickle. I was like, you know what? Let's just see what happens.
Exactly.
Well,
And I think it's. Oh,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think what I've learned, through wife school and just
Mhm.
experience is it's the way you say it.
Yes.
So, I used to be the chick that would say, by the way, I'm not sleeping with you.
Yeah.
Like my head moving,
Yes.
my hands moving.
Yes.
And I know he was
That's
like,
probably on the first date.
no, really. And I know he was
Before
like,
the dessert
Oh,
thing.
okay.
well,
Well,
I don't even know if I like you yet.
exactly.
So I have learned, I'm not gonna wait 6-7 months,
Right.
but I have learned that it's how you say it.
Yeah.
Right.
That is important
And when.
as well.
And when.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
listening, you talked a lot about that. And then listening to his response.
Mhm.
Some men haven't been challenged in that
Exactly.
space. But knowing that this is my boundary. So
Yeah.
I can't
that
say
might
that
make
on
him
Monday.
even more attractive
Right.
Yeah.
to you.
Right.
But I can't say that on Monday and then I'm sleeping with him on Friday.
No,
That's
you can't do
fickle.
that.
That's
No.
That's
You can't do
fickle.
And I do want to speak to something because we Placida brought it up
Mhm.
because
Hey,
we
Classy.
hey sweetie we went in the area. Well, you did. You went in that area and brought it up, which I'm like, hey.
Yes.
But
I like the real.
she's
deal.
like, did you go there, Benicia? Come on now,
Mhm.
because we need to spend time on that. I
Right.
actually think we should
Mhm.
do a show on that topic
Yeah.
because
That's a great
You know,
topic.
people are like she said here. We have to talk about it because it's happening big time.
Right.
People are substituting
Other
real
things.
human companionship
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
for other things.
Yes.
And I personally had some really dear friends of mine whose marriage just dissipated because of those very things. I think sometimes, especially in church,
Mhm.
being single, and I do probably deal with more single women than anything. That is really my ministry.
Right.
I did a lot of, like you, research. I read a lot of books. I went to a lot of conferences, and I read on those topics, masturbation, this, different topics. And what I think we do a disservice, how I think we do a disservice, is because we don't really talk about the effects it can have.
Yeah, the after effects.
Even once
Yes.
you're married. And that's what happened to my friends.
Because I think if you're doing that desire for your husband may not be there because you're
that's
so
exactly
used to
what happened.
doing
Pleasing yourself. That's
yeah.
exactly what
And
happened.
in our minds, because we're Christian women,
Mhm.
we think, well, because if it's not the real thing, then
Yeah.
I'm not really.
Yeah, no.
You know
It
what?
opens up the door
It opens the
to
door.
so many things. I've had friends who are married and they still had to do that.
Mhm.
Why, even after
Mhm.
they've had sex with their husbands. Why? One, it becomes an addiction
Mhm.
Wow.
that we don't talk about.
Wow.
And two,
Wow.
exactly what you said.
Mhm.
I'm a woman, so
Mhm.
I know my body better than anyone.
Right.
So
Right.
if I can find pleasure that way and my
Mhm.
husband doesn't, then it's a disservice to the marriage. Now
Yeah.
the marriage is lacking in sex, and
Right.
it's just a spiral.
It's
Yeah.
a spiral, and then it will be hard for him to please you because you become
Absolutely.
accustomed to pleasing yourself.
That's it.
And
in a
it's
nutshell.
because I'm gonna tell you, and this is for Christian women, and I know that we go to church and we want to make sure that we're pleasing God. We're not saying to go out here and just sleep and have sex.
Oh,
That's not what we're saying.
Absolutely not.
But I
Our
think we
ultimate
have
goal is
to-
please God.
Our ultimate goal is to
goal in
please God.
everything.
But I think we have to have these conversations and to be real and to know how
Yeah.
to, when we're in a situation,
Yes.
to have the adult conversation.
Absolutely.
As I said, I can't say that I did that with my
Right.
husband,
Right.
but I can say, and I will tell anyone, I do know why I made bad choices
Right.
or stayed in relationships longer than I should have when I know it wasn't working out, is because of that emotional attachment when
Right.
sex
Right.
is in the picture.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
you know,
like you
Absolutely.
say all the time,
All
you
the
make
time.
different decisions
And it-
when sex is
And
involved.
it can be done. I've had ample opportunity. You know, God will keep us. And if we do fall, again, there's grace and mercy for everything.
grace
There's
and mercy.
nobody perfect. And
Yeah.
even if you're not sleeping, if you're having these crazy thoughts, you know,
That's
it's
another thing you have to pray about.
absolutely.
Mhm.
So we do have to give women tools on how to navigate that sexual piece that we really do not talk about. So I think that would be great.
Yeah,
if
I think we
had
should
a
do that.
podcast.
And I think that will also help women to be able to enjoy dating more
Mhm.
and not sabotage relationships or shut them down
Yeah.
because you feel like, you know what, he wants to have sex.
Right.
I look at it two ways. Now, this is just me.
Okay, talk to us.
Number one, he's probably attracted to you.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, you know what?
Right.
There's something to her.
Yes.
Right? Doesn't mean that he's ready to just jump on you.
Right.
Mhm.
And
But
you
you know,
want the
men,
person to
but
be
let's
attracted
just
to
be
you.
honest.
You do.
Men
Yes.
are going to be, men are chasers, right?
They're
I mean, men are
naturally.
hunters.
And they're visual.
They are visual.
Hello.
And we have to be careful with that piece.
Yes.
And the reason why I say that,
That's
because
so good, Sharon.
and the reason why I say that they're visual
Mhm.
is because sometimes they are visual, but beautiful women can also be
Enticing.
but they also can lack the self-esteem
Right.
and the
Okay.
confidence,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so if you
That's
have a
good.
problem with self-esteem just because you're beautiful,
Mhm.
or you feel like I'm waiting to get myself together, I gotta look this way, I gotta look that way,
Mm.
you may be waiting forever, because if this isn't right, and if this isn't right,
That's good.
it doesn't matter what you look like,
That's
Yeah,
right?
good.
yeah.
And
It'll
so-
come to light.
And so,
Yes.
so the thing about it is that beauty is in the eye of the beholder,
That's
right?
right.
So you can sit around here and you can do all this stuff, and you think you're gonna attract the right person, and you still end up attracting the wrong person because you're still not mentally stable,
That's so
and you're not
good.
emotionally stable,
That's so
right?
good. Yeah.
So when you talk about sex and then you add sex to that equation,
Mhm.
oh my
Oh,
God,
That's a recipe for
Oh,
disaster.
that's a recipe for a disaster,
Big
Right.
time.
right?
And
Big
the other
time.
thing you said that there's so much that we need to
I
address.
know,
One
and
thing-
we are way over, but you know what? And we're gonna start wrapping up. But
I'm sorry.
I just know, don't dare apologize.
No,
This
is
has
so
been amazing, and
Good.
thanks, Placida, for tuning in with your comments. She said public and private conversations in that area are very crucial.
Mhm.
Very, very
She's an
crucial.
addiction counselor, and
Oh, awesome.
so
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
She is
she
the one a lot of
understands.
women need to be talking
That's
to.
Yes,
so
yeah,
true.
she has a women's organization
Oh,
too,
yeah.
which is
Okay.
great, Women Elevated. But shameless plug. But I think this has been amazing for so many different reasons. I think actually it's serving as a catalyst to jump into other areas. So I'm excited about where we're
Yeah.
going from here. You said you had some closing thoughts?
Well, I was just piggybacking off of so much that Sharon, we both have shared that was so good. But when we were talking about men that are visual, one thing that I think sometimes we just take for granted that everybody was raised the same way.
yeah,
And
we
so
are. We all
that's
come
where
from the
judge,
same place.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's where a lot of judging and things of that nature comes from. And I'm glad that I'm just continuing just to mature in that space. And I say that because as women, we have a responsibility too when we go out on a date.
Yeah.
So if I know that men are visual, then I probably don't want to have my cleavage out,
Right.
Mhm.
right? While
Right.
we're dating. If I have a nice shape, I mean, wear your dress. I'm gonna wear my dress now. However, it doesn't have to be so skin tight that you're going to see every nook and cranny. So I think even in that, we have to learn to be stylish and modest, but we also want to present ourselves in a way that we're not causing him to not respect us
Right.
or
Right.
respect that boundary. Do you
Right.
agree with that?
I totally agree.
Mhm.
And a lot of that comes from, okay, you got your Instagram models, your
Right.
reality TV stuff, so everybody's trying.
Yeah.
And then you wonder why African American women have the largest population of single women. We just got to be ourselves.
Wow.
We got to love on ourselves.
Yeah.
We got to build each other up.
That's
Yes.
good.
Not compete with each other. What God
Yes.
has for you is for you. What God
Yes.
has for you
Yes.
is for you.
Yeah.
And we got to trust God in the process. And we just got to enjoy life. Stop stressing.
That's
Oh,
good.
that's
Sharon.
When
so good.
I
That's a
just
good way
learned
to
to
end
enjoy
this
life
segment.
and
Yeah.
just, just have fun, it just became, to me, it was good.
Mhm.
If the
Yeah.
relationship worked, it didn't, you just enjoy life. And I think we get so caught up and we beat ourselves up so bad.
Yeah.
And we become just an emotional wreck. And we're not, I don't care whether you, on the outside or the inside, you just become unattractive.
That's
Yeah.
so true.
Yeah.
And so we just got to heal it ourselves. We've got to just love on ourselves,
Mhm.
be there. And I encourage every single woman, have a great circle.
Yes.
A great circle.
Shout out to our circle.
A great
Yes.
circle.
Yes.
And be yourself.
Yeah.
Don't feel like you got to be perfect.
I love that.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm.
When I met my husband, I was whole. And when I say I never said I was perfect.
That's right.
But I was whole. And when I say I was whole, it was because I loved me.
Yes.
That's
Yes,
so
Linda. Let go
important.
and
I
let God. You
loved
loved yourself.
me,
Yes.
right? Everything about me, I love, even to this day. I mean, my husband, you know how I am, right, honey? and so even to this day,
Yeah.
I love me.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
So important.
And he loves me for me.
Yes.
Right.
And you will realize when you get married one day,
Mhm.
he's gonna see the good, and he's
Right.
gonna see
the
the
makeup
bad.
off.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
The hair not done.
He's gonna know when you have those
Yes.
good days and those bad days.
Yes.
And I'm not talking about just appearance. I'm just
Right.
talking about
The
when you're
inward.
going through stuff.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so we got to just put all the fantasy down
Right.
Yeah.
and just
That's
be
good.
real.
That's
And I
good.
Yeah.
think we're trying to compete. I gotta look like this. I gotta have this. My hair gotta be this. way. I
Yeah,
gotta
because
be
her
this. I gotta-
Instagram
Yeah.
picture
Just-
looks like this.
Just
Right.
be
That's
you,
true.
and he's gonna love you
Yeah.
for you.
Exactly.
So Sharon, I know we're wrapping up, but what does that look like? It's so sometimes it can come across so cliche when people like just love you. Well, I know people. I remember telling one of my girlfriends something similar, and she just burst out crying,
Mm.
and it just took me back because she said, "I don't even know what that looks like."
So first of
Wow.
all, it starts with
Wow.
not beating yourself up.
Yeah.
Right? And realizing and looking in the mirror and saying, I am a beautiful person.
Right.
Mhm.
I may not look like Benicia, I may
Mhm.
not look like Tanya, but I look like Sharon.
Right.
And you know what, Sharon? You a bad chick.
Mhm.
And just loving
Affirmations.
you
Yeah.
for you,
Mhm.
right? I think we forget that sometimes.
Right.
Because I think when we have the social media and we're turning on the TV and we're looking at all this stuff,
Mhm.
we're allowing that to determine, where we
Mhm.
should be or how we should look or what I should have.
Right.
And the more I'm learning about social media, it's good and it's bad.
Mhm.
And sometimes you got to come off of there and
Oh,
spend
yes.
time with
I
yourself.
take social media fast.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
You
saying?
have to fast periodically.
Treat yourself.
We
Right.
do.
You know what I'm saying? I do that even to this day. My husband will tell you, I treat myself.
Mhm.
And it's okay.
Yes.
I will still go, like if he's working, he knows I can go sit down and have lunch by myself.
Right.
Right?
Oh, I
So
love
healthy.
spending time with me. We were just
Yes,
talking about
we
It's,
that.
were.
I mean, it's just
being able to
something
sit
you
in a
have
restaurant
to do.
and
Yeah.
just enjoy a meal,
Yeah. So
maybe
when
a
you say,
book,
when
something.
you say what that looks like,
Yes.
there's no rhyme or reason.
Mhm.
It's just loving you,
Mhm.
accepting how God created you.
And
think
that's
that's
key
so
though,
important.
because we
Mhm.
have a lot of colleagues that, one in particular that's focuses on self-care.
Mm-hmm.
And nowadays, unfortunately, because we have moms that are, working 3 and 4 jobs, and I'm maybe exaggerating a little bit, but they're trying to hold it down,
Mm-hmm.
and it may be a home where both parents are there. And in this economy, they're trying to hold it down.
Absolutely.
So we, as women growing up, don't get that picture of this is what you do to be good to you,
Mhm.
and this is how you
Mhm.
do that.
Right.
So now we're having to have people spell it out
Exactly.
like you're doing.
It could
These
be
are
just-
some of the things that you do that's very simple
For
to
me,
take care of yourself.
my husband knows when I've had a long, like we've had a great week this week. We've been busy. I'm gonna tell you. Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm wearing about 10 hats. And I said to him, I said, after this interview tonight, I said, I'm gonna come home, I'm gonna take a shower, and I'm gonna climb up in the bed. And I have a journal, and I may journal, whatever. To me, that's just self-love. It
Peace
taking
time,
a bath.
yes.
Sometimes I go in the shower, and I love, I take showers all the time, but as we should, but I go in the shower because you know what?
That's a dating tip.
I'm gonna tell
Yes.
you something.
I
Do you
love
know that's
shower.
where I talk to God?
Me
Hello?
You know that's where a
Is it
lot
the
of
water?
things.
Download
That's
it.
when
That's where he
God just kind of
downloads.
drops stuff in
Yes.
my
So true.
spirit.
Yes.
We were just
And
talking
I've
about
learned, I've learned that even now at
that
30,
is so
at
funny.
35, you couldn't have told me that because I
Right.
didn't get it. At 46, do you know sometimes when I just need for God to answer
Yes,
a
girl.
prayer,
He does
or
those
I need to
shower
talk to Him,
downloads.
I go get in the shower.
Yes.
And that is time that I just love. Like my husband can tell you, honey, this dropped in my spirit in the shower.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because
Yes,
that's just
girl.
that
He
is
gave me
just
a book
that
there
is
the other day.
that's just my time, and I look forward to that.
Yes.
You know, and it
I
doesn't have
get
to be. It doesn't mean you got to go out and have a massage. It can be something just so simple.
It really
Yes.
You know,
can.
self-love is how you define
Yes,
self-love.
Jackie. We are wonderfully made, she said.
We
That's
are
right.
And
wonderfully
Linda
made.
says you always have to know that you're a queen before anything
do.
else.
And I think that's, Linda, that is so important because oftentimes we wait for people to validate.
That's so
us.
true.
We have to validate ourselves and love ourselves.
Mhm.
We are queens.
That's
Yes.
right. I just
And
thought-
if you want someone to love you, you gotta
Yeah.
first love,
Love
yourself.
yourself.
Yes,
That's so
that's
true.
a prerequisite.
And I just, a couple of days ago, the Lord just really showed me, Benicia, if you're not healthy, then your daughter isn't healthy. It's just like
Wow.
if a pastor isn't healthy, then the flock isn't going to be healthy. And so my daughter is 18, and so what we started doing is saying affirmations. So at night and in the morning. And if I can get her at 18 to be able to know, you know, we say all kind of affirmations, you know, that she's beautiful, but she's the head and not the tail, and favor, whatever it is that, you know, you choose. I think as women, that's something that we have to focus on because faith comes by what you hear.
Yeah.
And so you don't always start out believing it. You may not feel beautiful, but if every day you commit to looking yourself in the mirror and saying that you're beautiful, eventually that's going to take root. And so I think a lot of times we don't do the work necessary towards the healing. So, you know, I remember I used to say, God, just snatch it out, especially when I was going through a divorce. Like, you God, like, just go in and put it out. And he was like, no, ma'am, this is a partnership, and we're
This
going
is how
to
it
do
works.
this
This is how it
together.
works.
Yeah.
So that's what we have to do. We have to get tools like this book
Yeah,
that
I
is
love it.
so
I love it.
beautifully written.
Thank you.
Because sometimes, and you alluded to this, we're
Yeah.
not experts in every area.
No.
But I can trust, you know, the gifts that He's given other people. So now I can read this. I'm going to read this. And then I'm going to be one step closer
Yeah.
to being better
Yeah.
than I was yesterday.
And I think as long as we live on this earth, we're forever learning.
Absolutely.
And we go, and so like right now, you know, I branched out into entrepreneurship.
So
and,
proud.
and
Awesome.
I
So
left
awesome,
I left
both
a
of you.
great I left a great job, and because you know I caught a thought,
Right.
and so at my church our pastor was preaching on that, and I caught a thought, and I was like, you know what, I did catch a thought, and now I've been looking for, you know,
Girl.
like business coaches, you know, and my husband will tell you I do webinars because now I'm branching out into something that is not familiar to me.
Yes.
And so if it's dating, if it's like needing a life coach for whatever issue you're dealing with, it's okay to seek help.
Absolutely.
Oftentimes, I not even oftentimes, but I go by what the Bible says. You judge the fruit by what? The vine, right? And so it's like, if you haven't really experienced something, be careful, or that person that you're listening to haven't really, be careful who you're
Yes,
listening to.
yes, ma'am.
I think that is
Be
so
careful
important.
of the
And it's
counsel
not that
you
I try to, it's not that I try to judge people.
No, but you
But
want to see
if
fruit.
you haven't walked, in those shoes,
Mhm.
how can you tell me?
Right.
I can listen to some of the
Right.
stuff you say
Empathize and
and
sympathize,
but if you haven't
Yeah,
walked,
speak from
that's
authority.
just
Yes,
that's just like
no.
if I have like if John and I, if we begin to have issues in our marriage, I know who to go to.
Mhm.
Right? I have my girlfriend who's been married for 26 years. She was
Right.
just here. We went to the Oprah tour. And then my parents who've been married for 50 years.
Oh.
You think I'm getting ready to just
That's
go talk
awesome.
to any and everybody
No, and
about
especially not a single
No.
girlfriend that's
Exactly.
like, girl, you
Yes,
don't need to
that's
put up
true.
with that mess. You did a
that? And even my girlfriends that have gone through divorce, I remember one of my girlfriends, she was going through divorce. I never, ever gave her any advice. I prayed with her.
Right.
I was very optimistic about it.
Mhm.
I said, have you sought counseling? I couldn't tell her anything.
Right. That's so true.
I'm
Sam.
not a
That's so
marriage
good.
counselor. So I just feel like if it's dating, if you're wanting to have successful, relationships or just, good experiences when it
Right.
comes to dating, it's okay. Even if it's not my book or even if it's not me that you're listening to, find someone that you can trust.
Right.
Yeah.
Find a good author or a good, relationship coach that you can listen to
That's good.
that can give you some guidance, but
Yeah.
also make sure, because oftentimes, I'm gonna tell you, now this is just me and this is not judging. We have a lot of people that are relationship coaches that are single.
Right.
And what I don't get, especially when it comes to the men, now men, I hope you're not out there,
And
I'm
you
not
have
trying
testimony
but
because
I'm just
you're
gonna-
married, so
Exactly.
obviously your
Yes.
stuff works.
Right.
So I'm just gonna tell you, when I see single men that are relationship coaches with all these beautiful women, single black women,
Honey, I'm thinking of one right now.
I'm saying, I'm asking myself, well, why are you single?
That's what
Yeah.
I'm asking.
When you're going around here, you got all these women. So we got to be very careful with who we're listening to and pray about it.
That's
And
so
trust, and I can't say this enough. If you follow me, you will always see, trust the process.
true. Right. That's good.
There's no avoiding it.
That's
We
good.
have to trust the
There's
process.
no avoiding
And if
it.
you have a relationship with God,
Mhm.
trust me,
Right.
He will show you what you need to see.
That's so good.
That
That's
is.
a great way
And that's
to.
a
yeah,
great way to
in
close
this segment
out. Yes.
that there's so many voices
Mm-hmm.
that are speaking, but if you know the voice and you
Mhm.
trust the process,
Seek guidance from
then
that.
he'll lead and guide you.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
I am.
This has been amazing.
So it has been, and we ran way over, but
Oh,
you were
it's fine.
worth every minute.
Every
Thank
minute.
you.
And
It's
so
been
were
great.
you guys.
Meeting you two.
You too.
I remember us having a long conversation. I remember
Yes.
you and I it was like, oh my gosh, I'm on the phone. I'm like, how long has it been? I don't meet any strangers, right?
Right. That's
yeah,
right.
I think the three of us have that in common, which is the scary
I
part.
don't meet any
But
strangers.
I will say that this was brought together
Mm-hmm.
from our hearts to you.
Yes.
Awesome.
We
Sure.
want you healed. We want you happy.
Yes.
Yes.
I want me dating, but I also want you dating,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
It's a
we
new
bro-
year.
It
It's a new
is,
year.
and like I
New
said
you.
on the website and on Facebook, God's doing a new thing.
Yes, he is.
Yes, he is.
So he's gonna meet you where you are and
So
provide you
good.
with what you need. You just
Yes.
need to walk in faith and be ready to arise and shine because
That's right.
you always have to be ready.
Mm-hmm.
Always.
So we'll see you guys next week.
We will.
We have an amazing, when I say an amazing couple and an amazing testimony for you next week.
Yes.
So we're so excited to come back and share some time with you. Thank you for hanging with
Thank you
us.
so much.
We
We
love
love
you
We
guys.
appreciate you.
Have a great week.
Yes.
Good night.
See you next
night.
time.
Trust the process.
Yes, trust the process. Take it easy.